Varnock Prime was no place for the weak. Thick with venomous flora, air saturated with spores that corroded metal, and storms that split the sky with lightning sharp enough to vaporize drones, the planet was a death sentence wrapped in exotic beauty. And yet, it remained the most heavily contested mining zone in 3 quadrants. Beneath its jungle floor pulsed a rare mineral, xenthite, that powered half the galaxy's star cruisers. But even the most advanced species tread lightly here, for one reason alone: the Karnax. The Karnax wasn't a creature, it was a calamity. Towering, quadrupedal, sinewed with obsidian-black muscle, eyes glowing like smoldering suns. It moved with a fluid menace, silent despite its bulk. No scanners could lock onto it, cloaking devices failed to mask its scent. It tore through mech suits like paper. Entire platoons vanished trying to hunt or observe it. Survivors, if there were any, returned mute or mad. The beast had no known weaknesses, no fear, and no patterns. Even artificial intelligence systems designed to predict threat behaviors failed to map it. Most alien species chalked the Karnax up to Varnock's ecological hostility, just another anomaly to be catalogued and avoided. But the Valari archivists saw it as a relic from an ancient evolutionary arms race. They claimed it was a prime apex, a species so optimized by survival it no longer adapted, but forced its environment to change around it. Whatever the case, one truth held constant: no one tamed the Karnax. No one even got close. After one particularly brutal incident where an elite Tasari hunter squad was found reduced to bone fragments and smeared armor, the Interstellar Council declared the Karnax region a permanent no-contact zone. Orbital drones monitored its domain. All incursions were met with threat-level Omega warnings. Even the warlike Juroth clans, known for collecting predator skulls as trophies, left Varnock's apex alone. Then, unexpectedly, a human scientific outpost was authorized near the exclusion boundary. Unlike other species, humans didn't operate in massed, armored caravans. They arrived in a small drop vessel, bringing only minimal weaponry, modular shelters, and field labs. Their mission was ecological: chart fungal growth rates, record atmospheric shifts, and document biodiversity patterns. It was the kind of low-priority research mission most species ignored. And yet they came. Among the crew was a child, unusual, but not forbidden. Her name was Amara. She was registered as a dependent of 2 xenobotanists on rotation. Nobody paid her much attention in the early logs. She appeared in the manifest as a line of data, nothing more. No mention of military background, genetic enhancements, or special abilities. Just a girl, 9 years old, with a quiet face and wide, searching eyes. For the first few weeks, her presence remained unremarkable. She accompanied her parents on minor treks, drew pictures of local wildlife, asked questions in the research logs with blunt, childish phrasing. But something shifted when a maintenance drone caught glimpses of movement in a restricted sector, movement that matched the Karnax's heat signature. The footage showed it standing still, unnaturally still, at the edge of the treeline, staring toward the outpost. And standing not far from it, frozen but unharmed, was a child. At first, the analysts dismissed the footage. A glitch, they said. Light refraction. Temporal interference. The idea that the Karnax had approached a human, without attacking, was beyond credibility. But then it happened again. New footage from another angle. The same child. The same beast. No aggression. No violence. Just observation. Within days, orbital attention refocused on the outpost. Scientists, xenoethologists, military tacticians all demanded answers. The human team claimed ignorance. The girl, they said, wandered a lot. They'd tried to keep a closer eye. But the footage couldn't be denied. In one clip, she moved slowly toward the Karnax. It didn't retreat. It didn't strike. It watched. And in the next frame, it was gone, faded into the jungle like mist. The shock wasn't just that the creature had spared her. It was that it had allowed her to approach. No being in recorded galactic history had achieved that. Not warriors, not diplomats, not synthetic minds. Only this small human, barefoot in the underbrush, humming as she walked. Speculation exploded across data networks. Was it phenomenal? Was she genetically unique? Did she possess a latent empathic ability? None of the tests explained anything. She wasn't enhanced, psychic, or trained. She was just Amara, calm, kind, and inexplicably fearless. To the aliens who worshipped logic, structure, and strength, it made no sense. But to the humans, it was almost expected. Not that a child had done the impossible, but that someone had. Because that was the essence of their species. When the universe built walls, humans knocked or walked right through, often without even realizing it wasn't allowed. And somewhere deep in the jungle, the Karnaks waited, not as a hunter, but as something far stranger. Something watching, perhaps even listening. Amara never saw Varnak Prime the way the others did. Where adults saw threats and risk assessments, she saw vibrant color and wild music in the wind. She moved through the camp with quiet confidence, never disruptive, never fearful, always curious. Her parents, assigned to catalog local spores, tried to keep her close, but the girl had a way of slipping into the margins of things, into the green, the mist, the silence between the warnings. She wasn't reckless. She watched before she stepped. She listened before she spoke. She didn't challenge nature. She flowed with it, like she belonged in the rhythm it beat to. When it rained, she didn't retreat. She reached her hand out and smiled as the drops slid down her palm. When strange birds called in layered harmonics, she hummed along, as if trying to match their language. The rest of the research team wrote her off as a liability waiting to happen. Quiet disapproval followed her presence, though no one said it outright. What use was a child on a planet designed to kill? Even her parents sometimes hesitated before defending their decision to bring her. But they underestimated the depth behind her stillness. Amara absorbed everything. The way vines recoiled under certain frequencies. The path of insects around exposed roots. The change in air density before a heat storm. She didn't name these things with scientific terms, but she noticed them, remembered them, moved with them. It was on one of her routine wanderings, never too far, never without her pack, that she saw it again. A shadow at first. A silence that pressed against the leaves. Then breath, slow, deliberate, massive. Her eyes caught the faint shimmer of light on scales. 4 glowing eyes blinked, each one locking onto her, unblinking. She didn't scream. She didn't freeze. She lowered herself to the ground slowly, palms open, gaze steady. Her breathing slowed. The creature shifted, stepping partly from the underbrush. The Karnaks, undeniably so. Its paw dragged behind it slightly. A thorn vine had embedded deep into the muscle, oozing dark fluid. It exhaled a low, rumbling growl, but didn't strike. Amara reached into her pack without breaking eye contact. She drew out a cloth she used for sketching, tore a strip, and crept forward in deliberate, small motions. Her voice came in whispers, soft, steady, rhythmic. Not commands. Not pleading. Just sound. A tone of reassurance. Her fingers brushed against the beast's paw. It tensed. She paused. Waited. When it relaxed, she leaned in and began working on the vine, careful not to tug harshly. The vine gave with a wet snap. The Karnaks growled again, louder, but didn't lash out. Blood ran down its claw, but Amara pressed the cloth, wrapping it tight, whispering again. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the Karnaks turned and faded into the jungle. No sign of anger. No sign of fear. When she returned to camp, she said nothing. No one noticed the missing fabric strip, or the faint smear of blood on her pant leg. She didn't explain what she had done, because no one had asked where she'd gone. That night, she drew a picture in her notebook, dark eyes, claws, a thick paw wrapped in cloth. No names, no explanation. The Karnaks returned 3 days later. No aggression. Just presence. It lingered at the tree line. Watched. When she approached, it didn't back away. Instead, it let her come close again. This time, she offered fruit. It sniffed, took it gently, and vanished once more. By the end of the second week, the The pattern had solidified. She visited during quiet hours. It appeared when she sang softly to herself. She never tried to ride it, never tried to lead it. She treated it as if it had a choice. As if trust was something that had to be given, not taken. Drones captured fragments of this interaction. A small human, alone, feeding what no one dared to approach. Analysts couldn't explain it. Scans showed no control signals, no pheromone triggers, no tech interference. The beast should have torn her apart. Instead, it seemed to wait for her. She began calling it Clawhoof. Not publicly. Just in her sketches and her whispering voice. She told it stories, simple, silly ones. Fairy tales with creatures who weren't evil, just misunderstood. Whether it understood didn't matter. It listened. That alone was impossible. The alien observers didn't know how to respond. They had no precedent. They compiled hours of footage, compared every angle, ran simulations. All failed. Nothing about the situation aligned with known models of predator-prey, behavioral conditioning, or dominance hierarchies. The only consistent variable was the girl. Not her genes. Not her behavior in isolation. But something unquantifiable. A mix of calm, curiosity, and presence that defied analysis. The Karnaks, for reasons no algorithm could decode, accepted her. Not as prey. Not as threat. But something else entirely. Amara didn't need to understand why. She never asked for control. She didn't seek fame or glory. She only wanted to help. And in a world built on instinct and survival, that singular intent, pure, unassuming, was enough to break through where nothing else could. Amara began to spend every spare moment with the creature. The Karnaks, massive and silent, would appear just beyond the tree line, never approaching others, only stepping into view when it sensed she was alone. She never called for it, never used food as bait. It came because it wanted to. She never tried to leash it, bribe it, or study it. She simply treated it like a presence she respected. She started bringing soft cloths to clean the scarred paw. It allowed her touch without tension now. She spoke to it the way she spoke to her sketchbook, narrating her thoughts in fragments, never expecting a reply. When she smiled, it would blink slowly. She noticed it began copying some of her movements, head tilts, shifts in posture, low hums that echoed her voice. Without realizing it, she had established a rhythm with something no one thought capable of empathy. Over time, she took small steps forward. Literally. Walking ahead slowly, pausing to see if it followed. It did. Cautiously at first. Then with confidence. She started tracing simple loops through clearings and returning to her start point. The creature stayed close, never rushing her, never breaking pace. She reinforced this pattern with light gestures, repeated paths, gentle praise. Never once did she raise her voice or issue commands. She studied old videos of humans training horses on Earth. Her parents had no idea how she accessed those files. She mimicked tone, body position, breathing control. When she raised her hand with her palm flat, the Karnaks would pause. When she lowered it, it would sit. She never punished, only reinforced what worked. She rewarded it with fruit and calm presence. Over and over, without fail, until patterns became habits. One morning, she brought a thick cloth harness she had stitched from scraps. She offered it, letting the beast sniff. It didn't flinch when she placed it gently across its shoulders. She made no move to climb it. She wasn't rushing toward the goal. She was building toward trust. It started following her back toward the camp perimeter, always stopping just out of sight of others. When alien surveyors spotted it, they panicked, assuming an attack. But the creature simply waited until Amara returned, then vanished again. She asked her parents to keep quiet, insisting she had it under control. Reluctantly, they agreed, but they began uploading logs anonymously. The footage made its way to military channels, then research divisions, and finally, interstellar broadcast networks. Experts argued the footage was doctored. Others demanded the creature be sedated and studied. Human leadership issued a temporary hold order, citing Amara's safety. No one could explain how a child had succeeded where entire military campaigns failed. There was no device, no weapon, no conditioning implant. Just consistent, gentle interaction. When a storm surge threatened the base and a team became stranded, the Karnax appeared out of nowhere. It used its bulk to clear a path through fallen trees. One alien nearly fired at it in panic. Amara stepped between them, arms wide, voice calm. The creature stopped just behind her, alert but still. No growl, no aggression. It didn't retreat until the danger passed. The crew returned in silence. Word spread. They called the beast her shadow. The name Klahov stuck, first as a joke, then as a symbol. Some aliens mocked it. Others watched in disbelief. A few began to see something else, possibility. If the Karnax could be tamed by a child, what else about this species had been underestimated? Amara expanded the training. She used visual cues, colors, gestures, spacing, to refine communication. She learned that tone mattered more than volume, that repetition without pressure brought results. She never treated it as an experiment. She treated it like a friend. That shift, more than anything, was what made the bond unbreakable. One day, without prompting, she climbed onto its back. It didn't flinch. She sat quietly, gripping the harness loosely, letting her weight adjust slowly. When she gave a gentle nudge with her heel, the Karnax walked forward in steady steps, careful and precise. It stopped when she leaned forward, turned slightly when she leaned left. It responded like it understood her intentions without words. She didn't show this to anyone yet. It wasn't for glory. It was part of something deeper. She was proving, not to others, but to herself, that trust built through patience could reach even the most unreachable. Her bond with Klahov wasn't a trick, or luck. It was persistence, respect, and quiet understanding layered day by day. Alien officials sent more drones. Some proposed capturing the creature for study. Others feared a security breach. But every skin confirmed the same truth. No implants. No remote controls. Just a girl and a monster moving side by side, rewriting every rule the galaxy thought it understood. The footage of Amara riding Klahov reached beyond the scientific communities. It spread through news hubs, military networks, and cultural forums across dozens of species. The shock wasn't just that she had mounted the Karnax, but that the creature responded to her guidance without restraint, as if they shared intent rather than language. Entire species that had once dismissed humanity as emotionally chaotic began to re-examine their assumptions. She had done something no advanced AI, elite hunter, or diplomatic envoy had achieved. Not by force. Not by intellect. But by a kind of instinct no one had modeled. Pressure mounted around the human command. High-ranking officials were urged to intervene, to extract the child, isolate the creature, and assert control before the situation escalated. The Valari Grand Council proposed a full containment protocol, citing the unpredictability of a sentient apex now roaming under human influence. The Juroth clans demanded the Karnax be tested in combat, to determine whether the bond had weakened its lethality. Even the synthetic colonies offered to simulate the behavior for further analysis, suggesting they could replicate the outcome with better precision. The humans declined every offer. Their stance was clear: Amara had formed the bond naturally. Interfering risked breaking something no one else had the right to touch. They deployed a minimal escort team, tasked with silent observation only. No one was to approach, provoke, or analyze the creature directly. The mission shifted from resource extraction to behavioral documentation, with Amara at the center. She remained unaware of the galactic attention surrounding her. To her, nothing had changed. She woke early, brought dried fruit in a cloth pouch, walked the same paths, practiced the same gentle signals. Klahov responded without hesitation. Their communication had refined to the point where she barely needed gestures. A tilt of her weight, or a shift in breath was enough. They moved as one body, one rhythm. She introduced new challenges, steeper paths, denser brush, longer routes, and he adapted seamlessly. But the balance was delicate. On the fourth cycle of her expanded route, A rogue survey drone ignored proximity protocols. It descended too fast, its thrusters whining aggressively. The Karnax reared, baring its teeth, muscles coiled for attack. Amara reacted instantly, sliding down, placing herself between it and the drone, palms raised. Her voice remained low, steady. No commands, just calm presence. The creature hesitated, eyes locked on her. Seconds passed like eternity. Then it backed down. The drone was recalled. Amara's response became mandatory study material. It demonstrated something rare in predator psychology: restraint influenced by trust. The implications sent ripples through xenobehavioral theory. A creature built for dominance had deferred its instinct in favor of maintaining a bond. No training models had ever predicted such a response. The girl's presence had altered not just behavior but core reactionary patterns. Officials convened in closed sessions, arguing over what to call the phenomenon. Was it domestication, symbiosis, or something else entirely? Arguments arose over whether the Karnax remained a threat. Militarized species considered contingency plans. Theological sects across multiple systems declared the girl a prophetic figure. To them, the bond was proof of human spiritual influence over chaos incarnate. Through all of it, Amara remained unbothered. She drew more in her notebooks, new angles of Clawhoof's form, patterns in its eyes, variations in its breathing after movement. She took soil samples where it lay, noted how insects avoided the spot. Every small detail became a part of her understanding, not for science, but because she cared. Her respect wasn't academic. It was personal. One morning, Clawhoof limped. A deep gash across its flank glistened with blood. Amara worked quickly, cleaning it with filtered water, applying sealant paste from her medkit. She sang while she worked. A soft lullaby her mother used to hum when the storms howled at night. The creature didn't flinch. It exhaled slow, its breath syncing with hers. The next day, it returned with a broken branch in its jaws. A gift, perhaps. No one knew what it meant. But to Amara, it was a sign of trust deepening. She planted the branch outside her tent, marked it with small stones, and drew a circle around it with her foot. That night, the Karnax lay just outside camp boundaries, visible to everyone. Still. Quiet. Watching. Some feared the implications. If the Karnax could bond, could it also be turned into a weapon? If more were found, could they be controlled en masse? Others saw something else, proof that understanding was more powerful than domination. That what made humans dangerous wasn't their technology, but their refusal to see anything as untouchable. The girl had never sought to tame a monster. She had simply seen it not as a beast, but as something whole, waiting to be met without fear. That shift in perception changed everything. Not just for her. Not just for the Karnax. But for the galaxy that watched, realizing too late they had misunderstood the most unpredictable force of all, human empathy. The turning point came without warning. A foreign strike vessel, cloaked in disputed airspace, breached Varnak Prime's upper orbit. It wasn't authorized, nor tracked by Allied systems. Its purpose became clear within minutes. A suborbital pod launched directly toward the forest basin, landing with calculated precision just a few kilometers from Amara's last known coordinates. It didn't broadcast, didn't respond to hails. The species was later identified as the Hastari, predators themselves, seeking dominion over the Karnax species for military conversion. Amara had no way of knowing the ship's intent. She was already deep in the jungle that day, following Clawhoof along a worn trail she had mapped by instinct. But Clawhoof knew something was wrong. His head snapped westward before any sound reached her. A low vibration followed, too subtle for most humans to notice, but Clawhoof's stance had changed. She had seen him react to natural threats before. This wasn't instinctual fear. It was anticipation. Within the hour she saw them, black armored soldiers with tranquilizer cannons, signal jammers, and netting systems. They moved in formation, speaking in bursts of encrypted tongue. She ducked behind foliage, gripping her satchel, breath tight. Clawhoof had vanished into the trees, silent as shadow. She didn't run. She crouched, calculated, then crept in the opposite direction to flank them. She knew her terrain better than they did. Then came the net guns. Explosive crackles echoed through the canopy. She couldn't see him, but she heard the roars. They had found him. A snap of plasma rang out, and something crashed through the brush. Her instincts overrode fear. She ran straight toward the noise. What she saw struck her heart cold. Clawhoof tangled in electrified netting, breathing hard, limbs convulsing as currents surged through his muscles. Without hesitation, she launched herself forward. The soldiers shouted, confused by her appearance. They hesitated for a moment, and in that moment she reached Clawhoof's face. Her voice broke through the static. One hand on his snout, the other pulling at a release clasp. Her presence triggered something in him. His spasms slowed. Eyes locked on hers. The moment stretched, until one of the soldiers barked a command and raised his weapon again. Clawhoof didn't wait. He surged upward, tearing through the weakened netting with raw force. A massive claw sent the nearest attacker flying. Amara didn't move away. She clung to his neck as he charged through the line, tossing armored bodies aside like dust. He didn't kill. He only cleared a path. She guided him into the deep gorge, toward terrain too unstable for the heavy suits. For hours they moved in sync, avoiding trackers and drones, weaving through rock and thicket until no signal could follow. When they stopped, Clawhoof collapsed from strain. She knelt beside him, whispering as her hands worked with gauze, sealant, and focus. The rescue team didn't arrive until dawn. The camp had gone dark once the strike vessel entered orbit. Human command responded with immediate force, deploying cruisers and threat neutralization units. By the time the Hestari's ship was intercepted, it had already begun planetary retreat, empty-handed and damaged. The footage of Amara shielding the Karnak's mid-electroshock had been recorded by a scout drone. It leaked before military could suppress it. The reaction was immediate and galactic. Even species that had once dismissed humans began releasing statements of solidarity. The act wasn't one of dominance, but defense. A child had risked her life for a creature the galaxy deemed monstrous. And the creature had responded not with rage, but loyalty. A formal declaration was issued within days. The Karnaks were to be left undisturbed. Their protection became a clause within the wider Interstellar Wildlife Accord. But one exception was noted: Clawhoof was not to be treated as wild. He was listed as bonded. Amara and Clawhoof were given safe passage off-world. She was offered placements in advanced xenopsychology programs, though she declined. She didn't want to study species through terminals. She wanted to walk beside them. She requested clearance to return to Varnak Prime regularly. Not for research. For companionship. Clawhoof traveled with her, always. No cage, no restraint. He followed of his own will. At diplomatic summits, he waited outside buildings, patient and calm. His presence forced many to reconsider their preconceptions. Some delegates couldn't bear to look at him. Others approached slowly, asking if they could touch him. Few were brave enough. Fewer were trusted. Years passed. Their story became legend. Not of taming a beast, but of earning the respect of one. It wasn't about what Amara had done, it was about how she'd done it. Without force. Without conquest. Just steady presence, quiet courage, and unwavering care. The galaxy would never forget the girl who didn't flinch in front of a monster. Because the truth was simple. She'd never seen a monster at all.